Have you been pushing through pelvic pain, bloating, exhaustion, or even deeper health conditions, doing everything you've been told, but still not feeling like yourself? Here's something most women are never told. Healing doesn't start with another protocol. It starts with your nervous system. And when your nervous system isn't safe, your body can't fully heal, no matter how healthy you're trying to be. Today, we're diving into what it really looks like to reconnect with your inner self, to build emotional resilience, regulate your nervous system, and finally create a foundation where true healing becomes possible. But before we dive into this episode, y'all already know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach Jovonnie, helping women who are tired of pushing through pelvic pain, bloating, burnout, finally understand what their bodies are trying to tell them before they lose more years accepting dysfunction as normal. And today's guest is someone whose journey through multiple chronic conditions, major life transitions, and deep inner work led her to uncover what so many healing spaces are still missing: the nervous system. Her story of navigating MS, celiac, and emotional trauma while rebuilding her life from the ground up will speak directly to the woman who feels like she's tried everything, but is still searching for answers. Welcome to the Good Vibe Studio, Christine.
Thank you. I'm super stoked to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Christine, what is the biggest thing people misunderstand about healing when it comes to chronic conditions?
That it's not all external. It's internal. Like we go and look for all of our answers outside of us. And we go to the doctors and now I'm not saying that doctors aren't necessary, but like starting with what you need inside and getting in touch with what your inner needs are. And then from there, finding the person to support that process. But a lot of times we just listen to external advice and doctors and we give our power away, and we're totally, we're just like running in circles trying to do what everybody else is telling us we should be doing instead of actually checking in and getting to know ourselves and our deeper selves and being guided to better health from that place.
I love it. And what I love most about it is that you talked about giving your power away. And that's very important because a lot of times when we feel like something is off, we're feeling sick, something doesn't add up, we go to some type of healthcare professional and we give them all the power to navigate us through the journey. Whatever they say goes.
Totally.
And sometimes we might do a little research, but we never really understand that there's so much power and so much work that needs to be done within ourselves. And so being able to start inside yourself and then find someone to support that process, even when you're doing the inner work, having someone to help you with that process, I think it's important also to know, getting to know yourself. What does that look like? Getting to know myself. What do I need? Understanding myself so then I can better advocate for myself. And I think that's really important because healing doesn't start with what you do. It starts with how safe your body actually feels. Something else you talked about before was that you said that the nervous system is the foundation of healing. Can you break down in a way people can really understand, what do you mean by the nervous system is the foundation of healing?
It's like, that's such a good question. It's kind of a lot to unpack. I'll do my best. But, we all carry unprocessed wounds and traumas from our childhood. I don't even like using the word trauma because it's kind of overused right now and it's a little bit trendy. But we have unresolved emotional responses that live in our nervous system. And then we have a disordered way of actually don't have any emotional capacity. A lot of people don't think about the nervous system being hand in hand with your emotions, but that's really where it is. So a lot of times we live this chaotic life, this stressed life. We're out of connection with our partner or community, or lacking satisfaction in our job. And then we wonder why we can't sleep well, why we have these bodily symptoms of distress. And then we go to the doctor and then we say, this hurts. And then they give us something, but we're not actually looking at how the subtle ways in which we're relating to the world around us. Do we invite in drama? Do we just thrive on chaotic circumstances? Is our life chaos? And all of that is an expression of your nervous system being completely out of balance. And so it's like, if your nervous system is out of balance, it doesn't matter how good your diet is. It doesn't matter how hard you try and exercise and do these other things. You have to have alignment with all of your efforts. And so, but yeah, your nervous system is a big part. It's like, yeah, how you handle stress, what your emotional capability is, what your emotional capacity is all really important.
And I enjoy that you bring emotions into it, because like you said, a lot of times people feel like, oh, your emotions are over here, your nervous system is over there, when it actually shows the response to your nervous system, how you're feeling. And I also like the way you rephrase, the word trauma in different experiences. Maybe people don't realize trauma is unprocessed emotions, or those experiences that you've never really dealt with, or got a really good understanding with, to cope, to figure out how to move forward or how to move through when those relived experiences or emotions show up again. I also like that you talked about how the nervous system is also how you relate to the world around us. If you're always stressed, if you're tuned into the drama, if you're tuned into the chaos, if it's something that you've always kind of are attached to in some way, shape, form, or fashion, or even feed into or allow that energy to go into it, it impacts your emotions, your nervous stability. And I feel like that matters. And alignment, when you talked about alignment with all efforts, that's true. Whether it's the things that are conscious and subconsciously, that alignment still matters, and it still shows up in your body. So I'm really grateful that you were able to really break down in a way that people could understand, what does it really look like when you say the nervous system is truly the foundation of healing, because how you feel is how your body is going to respond in all those different ways. You went through a major life transition, closing your business, divorce, moving countries while navigating MS and other conditions. What did that season teach you about your own body, Christine?
Well, it taught me that I have had like a control issue. And I was incredibly hyper vigilant, and I was trying to do all the right things. And I like to get an A in everything. And I wanted to get an A in my health, and I wanted to get an A in my career. And even though those are like valuable like skills and desires and super common for all of us, but maybe over time, as the way you go about it ends up making you sicker. I didn't have any sense of control or surrender. I didn't have any emotional capacity whatsoever. And so when these difficult things come up in life, if you don't have the capacity to hold that, then you're spilling your energy all over everybody else, and you're actually creating an unsafe environment in your own body, because you can't even hold your own self. And so, yeah, I learned a whole lot about myself because while I was so busy chasing like the perfect diet, I'm a holistic chef. I had restaurants. Like, food is so powerful for me, but no amount of kale smoothies can like balance the scales of a disordered immune system or a disordered nervous system when you can't even when you can't process your emotions. And when you have such a rigid control over everything too,
That's powerful. And I think that's important for people to talk about or think about, because so many people feel like, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating the fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm getting in the smoothies, the juices. I might be walking. But at the same time, if you're unbalanced with your nervous system, you stay in a hyper vigilant state, you stay in a fight or flight mode, and you're unable to truly understand what's happening with your emotions and then regulate your body, you're going to continue to stay in that state of chaos and dysregulation. And it's going to make healing an obstacle. And so that's when I feel like most people get frustrated, is because I feel like I'm doing everything right. I'm doing the textbook like things to live a healthier life, but you don't understand some of the things that you don't understand. And it could be the patterns of your life. You just talked about it. Being hyper vigilant, being in control, wanting to make A's, being the perfectionist at every single thing, which are high values and are good. But what is that costing you when it comes to being in balance with yourself? And so I'm really glad that you spoke on that. I kind of want to reflect on that question for myself. And it took a 4-hour long surgery for me to realize how I was living was fueling inflammation, deep inflammation in my body, to where after that surgery, I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, fibroids. I found 2 small fibroids in my uterus at the time. Didn't even know anything was like that was happening. And I was like, what is happening right now? I thought I was doing the right things. I ate mostly healthy, didn't eat a whole bunch of junk food. I mean, I went to Krispy Kremes every now and then, but it wasn't a regular, you know what I mean? It was in moderation. I got enough exercise and movement at work. So it wasn't like, I needed to be in the gym, morning and night. And when my body went through all the things that it went through, and it had to go through all this reconstruction, my fallopian tubes being stuck together, there was a large cyst on my right ovary that ruptured, that caused everything to kind of happen, that debilitating pelvic pain. It was as if my body had to scream for me to start listening. And the more I started going on this healing journey, I realized how powerful energy matters, how powerful emotions matter, how powerful patterns, boundaries matter. All of those things play a huge part, just like movement, just like fruit, vegetables, the right nutrients, the functional nutrients for your body, the thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. All of these things play a huge part in how you're living and how your body responds, whether you see it or you don't. Because on the outside, I felt like I looked good, I looked healthy, but on the inside, it was wreaking havoc. And you can't see what's in the inside until something really screams out to you and says, this isn't right. Something's not right. And so I'm glad that you shared some of those teaching moments. And for me, it was like how I was living played a huge part. The patterns that I was repeating that I was unaware of played a huge part. The identities that I wasn't aware of was playing a huge part on staying misaligned with who I needed to be able to be a healthier version and a healing type of version. Because I feel like the healing journey never ends. It's not a destination to it, because you want to keep getting better and better and better as you evolve on how you love yourself and care for yourself. You agree?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we should just go out to lunch tomorrow or something like that, because we have so much in common. Because I think that's so fascinating, because we are so conditioned in our culture to seek outside of us, go to the doctors and catalog all of our symptoms, and then all of these things that are wrong with us. And we never really look at these subtle things that you were saying, like that's subtle, but it actually rules your entire life. And you think that like they're not intertwined. And a lot of people feel like hesitant or afraid to kind of like look inside and look at themselves. But what I loved the most about what you said, I mean, I agree with every single thing you said, but what I loved is about the self-love. Because when you start working on the inside, you learn to love yourself. And like a lot of people say, oh, you just love yourself. And well, you and I know, and everybody who's listening, love doesn't happen like that. It's a relationship, right? You don't just meet someone and just love them immediately. You love them over time. It's a relationship, and love builds. So your love with yourself will build over time. And the more you start showing up for yourself, the more your body will start thanking you. And then you start to build this like positive feedback loop, and you start to build this inner dialogue, and you're like, your body's like, finally, she's listening to me. Hallelujah. And then your body is so grateful for you. And then you're in awe of your body, like all that it does to keep you safe, and how hard it's trying to talk to you and tell you what you need to know. And then if that doesn't trigger self-love, like, well, I don't know what else does. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a moment of like realization that like, oh my God. And so it's just like, it's so worth it to turn inside, And by the way, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm not even suggesting you need to go to a therapist. Right.
Agreed.
Because sometimes, like, you don't need to go to a psychiatrist. Like, some people do. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm not. But this is a different thing I think you and I are talking about than somebody that you pay once a week or once a month to go and kvetch for an hour about your problems. This is a different kind of connection.
It is. It's the connection that says, I'm taking back my power that I gave to either a pattern that I didn't realize that I was repeating, or an identity that I didn't even realize I had. For me, Christine, I didn't even realize that I was a people pleaser. I had to think back as my childhood. We talked about different childhood experiences. And I was like, okay, I was a people pleaser because I wanted my family to validate the things that I was doing. I wanted them to be proud of me. I didn't want to let them down. It was some kind of like, even if you put the pressure on yourself, you don't want to embarrass your family. You want to be good at the things. You want to show that their sacrifices weren't in vain. And so you have that people pleaser. Then I wasn't, I didn't grow up learning the importance of boundaries. It was like, even if you said no, it was like, no, you needed to do this, that, and the fourth. And when you learn that in a family setting, then it transitions into all these different relationships. And then if you don't have boundaries, that can keep you dysregulated, because now you don't even know how to show up for yourself and say yes to you, because you're so used to saying yes to everybody else and no to yourself, and not prioritizing you. Like you said, getting to know you. And for me, I needed to change things. I started with food because I understood, okay, anti-inflammatory foods help the body stay in a lower state of inflammation. So I started with foods, but then I started thinking about it. I had to change my beliefs around the power of food that came with it. So then my mindset really had to shift. So when your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs start to shift, you start changing your behaviors. You start living differently, and you start realizing, oh, this is a better way of showing up for myself, that then turns into a journey of self-love. And if y'all are still vibing with us in this comment the word love, just to remind yourself that that's what all it boils down to, is making the decision to love you. And it can look like that in an emotional state, a spiritual state, a physical state, a financial state. How are you loving you? And that's ultimately the journey that you're going on when you think about your health, your habits, and your healing. And so if you're listening to this right now and you want to understand what are some of my triggers that I might be experiencing that I'm not aware of, or patterns or identities, and you want to take the quiz, check the show notes for the quiz so you can get a better understanding of your inflammation triggers, your patterns, the different identities, so you can be aware of how you might not be showing up in the best way for you. No shame, but when you are aware, you can take more control and get your power back. So here we go, Christine. We're flowing into this conversation, and I'm liking the way that we're going, because like you talked about earlier, the nervous system is a lot that people are talking about, but all the same, that it's starting to become a trend. But we always know that there's supplements out there, and you can't out supplement a dysregulated nervous system. So how can someone tell that their nervous system is dysregulated, especially if they've been doing all the right things for their health?
Wow. So there's so much to unpack there. So first of all, I think that like a dysregulated nervous system shows up in physical symptoms. Like physical symptoms are actually downstream from your dysregulation, right? And so like some of the most common ones, though, you can have digestive issues, you can have skin issues, you can have heart issues, breathing issues, anxiety, you can have chronic insomnia. I mean, that's what I had. I couldn't sleep for anything. And I think, wow, how many people go and chase all of the things to help them sleep and take Ambien and all this stuff. And what if you can sleep perfectly fine if you have a nervous system that knows how to rest and actually sleep? You could be exhausted, but your body just can't actually slip down into a rest mode, but also it looks like the stress, the relationships you have, it looks like the drama. A lot of people really call in drama. A lot of people like chaotic environments. Also, you know what else? This is a subtle thing, but it's really powerful. What do you consume? Not your food, but in your media, the news. What are you consuming? What's your news cycle? Are you scrolling, doom scrolling, watching the news, getting outraged about the world events? Like, what is your relationship with all of these external things? Like, are you triggered by people, or somebody cut you off in traffic and you get all angry? Like, these are all like, not to say that you're always zen when somebody cuts you off, but the accumulation of all of these little things that I just mentioned really signal that you're not exactly zen, and you're not exactly even keeled. And when you're not, your body just can't heal. And no amount of eating the right diet or doing all of these things is going to fix that. And so, but I love what you said though as well about how there is a lot of conversation around the nervous system right now. And I think that that's really powerful and really amazing. Like, even like a year ago, I don't know about you, but I don't even feel like I heard it nearly as much as I do today.
Agreed.
And I also feel like, right, it's everything. And I love that in a lot of ways, because more and more people, even if you don't have a chronic illness, you could still have a highly dysregulated nervous system. And so I think it's lovely for people to start to recognize that they can actually create a relationship with their own nervous system. But I do want to say that this is where I think it's a little bit different too, is there's a lot of nervous system modalities that all aim to like regulate your nervous system. And I'm not saying that they don't have their place, and I'm not going to talk bad about any of those practices, because different practice works for different people, and it's not my place to do that. But what I will say is that really the regulation starts with yourself, and it starts with your emotions, and it starts with your relationship with yourself. You can go to a practitioner and have somebody like help regulate you. You can take an online course to regulate yourself. You could try to meditate or do breath work. But if you're not building your own inner capacity and resilience through your emotions, then you're never going to be able to manage your emotions. And if you're not able to manage your emotions, then you're never going to clear unprocessed childhood wounds. You're never going to, it's just really hard for you to live in alignment. And so I like to suggest that this is why this work, the work that I teach people, is so important, is like small little steps to really start to come home to yourself over and over again. And then build capacity in over time. And then you'll see it actually will change your entire life.
I agree, because your body isn't failing; it's just overwhelmed.
No.
Some notes, and so for the first one, there's some physical signs, and you gave some examples: digestion issues, skin issues, heart issues, chronic insomnia. And we're going to come back to that insomnia. Then 2, you talked about stress. 3, relationships. 4, drama. 5, media consumption. And I feel like those are really good ones. And I guess a bonus would be those reactions when you talk about getting kind of having that short fuse, that you're not going to always be zen, but that's also telling you, hey, you're a little dysregulated, like something's happening.
You don't have the capacity.
But I love that you talked about how important it is to create a relationship with your nervous system. And it made me think about like when my heart elevates, when I'm starting to feel almost like a slight panic attack, or my nerves I'm getting a little jittery, and I'm like, okay, my nervous system is talking to me. I'm trying to deep breathe. And I even talked about this with my students. Like when you're at a higher state of anxiety or panic, it's almost hard to even do controlled breathing. And sometimes you need a little bit more tools in order to figure out, how do I regulate myself in this moment? And sometimes it's connecting with different senses. It could be a thought, an affirmation, hearing something to kind of calm you down. And so I really like that you talked about there's so many different modalities and tools to help you regulate your nervous system. Find what works for you, because everything doesn't work for everybody, because it's your healing, it's your journey. And so I'm really glad that you gave space for that. But knowing that it's self plus emotion plus relationship, all of those 3 things, those 3 components matter. They play a huge part in it all. But having to be able to build that inner capacity isn't always something that you can do on your own. That's when you kind of typically need some type of support so you can understand the skill sets that you might be lacking, and that's okay. But also getting that resilience through emotions. If you can have the emotions and not learn anything from it or grow from it, or even be able to process why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, what thought, what feeling, what belief triggered me to even feel the way that I'm feeling, to then come back and regulate, that's still work that has to be done. And that's valuable work that needs to be done. And so I'm really grateful that you broke that down in a way that people can understand. Like, it's simple things that you can do once you're aware. And when you are aware, you now have the power to make a difference or make a change. And over time, if you're being intentional with that change and with that awareness, you'll start to grow and develop and really get more regulated and start to figure out what healing really looks like for you. For women dealing with fatigue, hormonal issues, gut problems, or chronic inflammation, how does your nervous system dysregulation really show up in those conditions?
Well, they just show up through just the daily symptoms, But what I think drives the process in a way that doesn't serve a woman is the self-talk. Because what ends up happening, and maybe this doesn't happen to everybody, but it sure happens to most everybody that I know, and it certainly happened to me, because then there's a lot of doubt that comes in when you have these physical symptoms and you have this negative self-talk. What did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? My body isn't working the way it should. Whatever that story is that you tell yourself over and over and over. You're discouraged, you're beaten down, you call your friends or you complain. And all of that is this feedback loop that feeds your symptoms. And so it's really important insofar as like this relationship and thinking about these type of things is like, and you even mentioned mantra, is this idea that what if there's nothing wrong with you? What if you can frame it every time you catch yourself like becoming discouraged or freaked out by the symptoms that are bothering you, that you actually remind yourself something completely radical. What if there's nothing wrong with you? It is just your body is talking to you, and it will resolve once you start to take aligned action. And a lot of times we get into this spiral, right? And we do it so subconsciously that we're not even fully connected to the way in which we talk to ourselves about ourselves and doubt ourselves when our body is experiencing or demonstrating symptoms. And so I think it's a powerful double play, right? It's the things that you say to yourself that feeds the symptoms that you have. And yeah, it also, I've been there, so I completely understand. And I know you have too, but I think it's hard to be in that place when you're full of self-doubt and you're afraid, and you are exhausted and tired, and it's hard to see that there's actually a way out. And it really does start with just being able to sit with your emotions and not react to them, and catch yourself when you start to say things that are bringing you down. And just these little tiny things are so powerful. They're simple, but they're not easy. But I often say, people will say to me like, well, but this is so hard. And I'm like, well, but having your disease is hard. Like, we already chose hard, right? Like, hard is showing up for us all the time. And we're already navigating hard by the choices that we have to make to curtail events or say no to something or the cost of our care or whatever it is, right? We're already dealing with hard. And so like, what if we can take the energy and direct it in a different way that actually shows results? And it'll move you through this dark place that you're in faster than any pill. For sure.
You can choose hard, but you can also choose
choose
simple. And it's so easy to make a different decision if your mindset is where it's at and you're wanting, willing, and ready to take a different type of action to break that cycle. And I really like that you said you can choose simple. you can invest the energy from moving from hard to simple. And like you said, the body is already communicating that it's going through a hard time in how it's showing up, whether you've been diagnosed with a chronic condition or not. I really like that you broke down self-talk drives the woman. And it could be the positive self-talk or it could be the negative self-talk that's going to drive you either towards more fueling of the pain, the inflammation, the fatigue, the hormones, the gut issues, whatever it is that you're dealing with when it comes to your body speaking to you through symptoms. It could feed that if we're on a negative. And we're not saying just be positive all the time, but understand that when you have the positive self-talk with action to back from it and skills to help you navigate and break the patterns, choose a different identity, have a better relationship with yourself, understand that your body is just communicating to you when you're having these types of symptoms and your body's not broken and you're not a victim of your body, things start to shift for you. And you really start taking on a new rhythm. And I like to say a healing rhythm, where you're able to vibrate a little bit higher just because your self-talk has gotten more positive, more uplifting. You're more aware. You're actively putting yourself in spaces like this where you're listening to podcasts to educate yourself, to empower yourself. And it was something that you said that really stuck out to me, Christine, while you were talking, and I was taking notes. And you talked about that negative feedback loop and the symptoms that you had. I wanted the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast to be a positive space for people to be educated, for people to be empowered, to take on their healing journey in their own way by being able to hear the different experiences, the expertise, just the journeys of strength that so many people, women, men, and the holistic tools, reminding them that they have the power to do them on their own, to take this journey and be confident in regards to how they want to take that first step towards healing. And it was just hard for me at the beginning because all the spaces when I started to do research about endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, it was as if I heard a lot of the struggle, a lot of the pain, the comments on certain Facebook community groups, comments underneath certain posts. There was so more low vibrational and the struggle and the pain, which have been validated and they're real, but there wasn't a lot of empowerment. It wasn't a lot of positivity. It wasn't a lot of, I've been here and this is what I've been doing to shift things. I've tried this, I've tried that. And I just really wanted to have more of a uplifting space because I wanted people to know that it doesn't always have to look bad. And you don't always have to see the heavy, painful periods where you're bleeding 14 to 21 days out of the month, and that you can have a 5-day to 6-day lighter period when your body, your nervous system is regulated. You're eating the right foods. You're not in a high inflamed state. Your relationship with yourself is different. You're prioritizing your love, your care for you. Like, it's so many different components that come with how you're living and how you're living in alignment with your body and aware of yourself that things can really shift for you. But you really want to make sure you're in the right places to be able to even just get a little bit of belief, a little bit of faith, a little bit of empowerment just to make a different change and see how it goes. And all changes aren't going to work out for you. All fruits and vegetables aren't going to align for your body like it does someone else, because it's really your healing and it's your journey. But I just really like that we talked about that self-talk and what we're consuming and listening to, because you can be empowered and you can go from all of these symptoms and these diagnoses where your body is in a dis-ease state and really start shifting some things for yourself. And I just thought that was really good. So I'm really grateful that our conversation led us to that point. So let's get into the next question. And I just really want you to be honest with where we are, because I feel like there's been a gap. You've mentioned that throughout your healing journey, no one really talked about the nervous system. Why do you think this piece is still missing in so many healing spaces? Knowing that if you get your nervous system right, then you can really heal.
I love that question. Yeah, I think that there's two reasons, actually. I think the first reason is because you can't open your body and find your nervous system. It's not an organ that you can find and test and have all these data markers to test and see. And then there's not necessarily a pill you can take or one thing you can do. It's a very ephemeral. And so I think because it is something that a lot of people feel like you can't see, you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't find. So it feels a little bit like ephemeral, right? It's like, well, I don't even know what that really means, you know? And I think the other part of the question too is that I think that doctors are just starting to recognize as well that as much as you and I are starting to recognize, like all of us, it's like an awakening that we're all starting to have, that this is a real foundational part of the healing process. But what I think is that there's right now in the healing of the nervous system, the world of that, and everybody's jumping on that and using that term. And I don't actually say that term lightly, to be honest with you, because I don't like to get lumped into trends, because this is like deep foundational stuff and it's not even a trend. It's far surpasses a trend. But what I want to share is like, we believe with everything, it's very cognitive. Like you go to the doctor, you get this test, you get your test results back. The doctor says, take this supplement or take this tincture or take this medication. And then you're like, cool. And then you're out the door. But the nervous system doesn't work from a cognitive level. It's not a cognitive system. So you can do all the reading you want about your nervous system, but it doesn't change it. It might make a difference in the moment, like if you do breath work or you do a meditation and you like calm down, but it doesn't actually rewire your baseline. And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of the emerging science, there's two camps, and a lot of it is this modality, cognitive modality sort of way. But really, the nervous system learns in relation. Like our nervous system starts to get formed by the age of 7, and it gets formed in relationships. So the child learns to have a regulated nervous system because of their mother and their father. And in relationship, that's how your nervous system heals, is in relationship. And so that's why when we're working with the nervous system, it's really powerful to have a great relationship with the person who's holding space for you to go through all of your ups and your downs and learning how to modulate your nervous system, learning how to handle your own emotions. Then I or you, whomever has the regulated system, the nervous system actually knows it immediately. And this is sometimes a little bit difficult for us to understand, but I use an example of like, if you walk into a room where there's a bunch of people and you know immediately, like, oh, I just interrupted something. Like, uh-oh, there's no good, like bad vibes here. Or you go to a spa or something like that to get a massage and everything is like, oh, it's so nice. And the music's so great. And you're like, oh yeah, this feels really good. And that is your nervous system already knowing and sensing and feeling the safety before you even mentally have a chance to like recognize something. Your body is already knowing that this is a safe thing or not. I'm welcome or I'm not. And this is an example of the way the relationship works. And so that's why when we really want to dive into working with our nervous system, having a relationship with somebody who is helping you regulate is very powerful. It's like one of the most important things.
I appreciate you breaking that down. And I love that you talked about the nervous system learns in relation and relationships, and that the nervous system needs to be rewired. And sometimes people need to look at how they've been programmed. And sometimes they didn't actually want to be programmed the way they're programmed, or life experiences have programmed them in such a way that now that they've gotten older, their body has been speaking. They might have some form of dis-ease, or they're having that burnout, that chronic insomnia, that pelvic pain, those heavy periods. Now they're just like, okay, what's happening? And they're looking back at it and they're like, okay, I need to rewire. I need to rewire my baseline. I need to really figure out what's actually happening, what has been triggering it so I can calm. But I like that you gave those two reasons. One, you can't just open your body, see your nervous system, and have someone do surgery to fix it for you. And two, it's the foundational part of the healing process. It's something that really needs to be addressed at a deeper level. When you think about the emotions, you think about the feelings, all those things, and how they really are translated and communicated throughout the body. Because even if you don't speak or express those emotions, the body still hears, the body still knows, the body still feels, and the body still reacts in some way, shape, form, or fashion with those emotions. And so I'm really glad that we kind of talked about that gap, because most healing focuses on symptoms, not safety. Y'all drop the word safe in the comments if you're still with us in this conversation. If someone is realizing this is them, what is the first step to start reconnecting with their inner self and regulating their nervous system, Christine?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I already said it, but I'll say it again and I'll keep saying it. Is you can just start 30 seconds at a time. And this is a process that I teach. And it's just sitting with yourself. You're meeting yourself. And you're learning to meet yourself by sitting with your emotions without reacting to them, without telling a story about them, without ruminating on them, just letting them be and learning to be comfortable feeling all of your emotions, because emotions pass. They only live in us 30 to 60 or 30 to 90 seconds, actually. And it's us that latches onto that emotional state and then generates more emotions. But if we learn how to just hold that space, and I say starting with 30 seconds at a time, and then during this time, you just have to repeat to yourself, there's nothing to fix. Just that's it. There's nothing to fix. You are just a human experiencing an energetic sensation that we call an emotion, and you are not your emotions. And so I think starting there, very small, there's nothing to fix, 30 seconds at a time, sitting with yourself, meeting yourself, trusting yourself that you can hold this uncomfortable sensation for 30 seconds. You can. And then what happens is over time that continues to build. And the other thing that's phenomenal about this is that when you start doing this for 30 seconds at a time, all the little triggers that would totally ignite you, actually, they fade away all by themselves. They just dissolve. You're like, wow, that thing used to piss me off. And now you're like, oh my God, I'm not even mad about that anymore. So you don't have to go in and fix that thing. You just need to hold your emotions. And then that thing fixes itself. And then you actually then also have the space, emotional, energetic space to deal with the big shit. Sorry, I just cursed. to start to hold the bigger things that are really weigh you down. And we all have those things, and be able to make decisions from a grounded place, because you're not reacting, and making decisions as a reaction. You're making decisions from a place of like being able to fully honor and hold exactly what it is without running away, without abandoning yourself. And then that is it sounds simple, and it is, but it is magic. It is where the magic is.
It sounds simple, but it really harnesses you to take control of that power to choose something differently. And that starts again with the identity and breaking or disrupting a pattern that you normalize, that you've always done. But I like it. 30 seconds, sit with yourself. Sit with those emotions without creating a story, a narrative, feeling the need to react to them, but just hold space for you. 2, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to fix. This is just an energetic sensation. I am not my emotions. And then 3, being reminded that you are a powerful being and you deserve to make decisions from a grounded place, not one stirred up with a whole bunch of emotions, being impulsive. And so I feel like that is really a great place for someone to really start to reconnect with their inner self and regulate their nervous system, because regulation begins with awareness, not perfection. So I believe
Yes,
that's really
no
powerful for
perfection.
whoever is listening.
There's no
To
perfection.
Not at all. It's only progress. You only want to continue to progress.
Yeah.
What changes in someone's life when they stop looking outside of themselves for answers and really start building that trust from within, Christine?
Wow. It's the most beautiful, it's the most beautiful process that there is. And that's why I do this work, because watching somebody come home to themselves and then see how everything else in their life just starts to align, and their health just starts to, everything starts to make sense, and everything starts to happen all on its own by just learning to sit with yourself for 30 seconds at a time. And it's amazing, because then you'll start sleeping better, and you'll actually be able to start digesting food. I think a lot of times in the food world, we get so hypervigilant around the diet, and we want to have the perfect diet and all this stuff. And it's easy to make it a slippery slope in a way. And how amazing would it be to be able to go and eat the Krispy Kremes, or not to eat with unconsciousness, right? And not to eat with disrespect to your body, because your nervous system wants to be nourished. And
it
so I'm
deserves.
not saying, and it deserves to be, but what I'm saying is, like, gosh, I think about, like, people in Greece, and they're just like, hey, and they're just like eating good food, and they're not worried about things, and they live to be 100. And it's just like this flow, and you're able to receive the nourishment. Your nervous system actually impedes your ability to process nourishment. And so it's, but it's just absolutely amazing. Your whole entire life will be better. Everything from your bodily symptoms to your happiness, your trust and faith in yourself, your belief in yourself, your self-trust, and all of it. It's endless, actually. But it all starts with that first thing.
I like it. So if you are with us, when you stop looking outside of yourself for answers and really start building in that trust within, your life starts to align. Everything starts making sense, or you're able to make peace with the things in life. Then too, your health starts to improve physically, mentally, emotionally. And then you start really flowing with this thing called life. And it allows you to truly have confidence in building that self-belief and self-trust. So I appreciate you breaking that down, Christine. So we're getting ready to get into our vitality spark. So it's rapid fire round, quick responses, because I really want to see some of how these responses go. So you ready?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. One sign your nervous system needs support.
One sign your nervous system needs support. You can't sleep.
Okay. Gonna slow it down. Pause on the vitality sparks. When you say you cannot sleep, because we talked about this earlier, we talked about that chronic insomnia. What have you seen? Maybe give three tips, strategies, ways that people who are having that chronic insomnia, people who can't sleep, stay wired, brains are going, they're tired, but they can't sleep. What are 3 ways or 3 things that they could probably consider doing to help them get better sleep?
Well, for sure, honoring your sleep cycle and creating space to actually sleep. A lot of people have like the TV on in their room, or they have bright lights on, or they just don't have a way to wind down. And so having space from media before you close your eyes, getting off your phone, having time to I love to just I'll turn off the lights and I just close my eyes, and you can actually feel the energy leaving your body. Your body will kind of start to tingle a little bit, and you just breathe really deeply. But I just think it's really important for us to have some space to actually go into rest, and all of that. So you asked me for 3 things.
Yes, ma'am. So we got create the space to sleep.
Yes. Get off your phone. turn the lights down low and create some space between all of the world and the busyness and the actual turning off the light and closing your eyes. Like, be with yourself. Maybe have gratitude for the day. I think ending the day with thoughts of gratitude of what went right that day and what brought you pleasure and joy is a really lovely way to end your day. Even there's always something, whether it's a bird out your window that you saw, or somebody paid you a compliment, or delicious dinner. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's get back into the vitality.
Back into the vitality.
Here we go. A simple daily practice to build emotional resilience.
Sit with it for 30 seconds.
Biggest myth about healing chronic illness.
That it can't be done.
One way to reconnect with your inner self today.
Yeah. Pause. Be with yourself. Smile at yourself in the mirror and say, you're beautiful.
What does true healing mean to you?
To be in a full alignment with my truth and to just be in full alignment and be living my truth and authenticity.
Here we go. All right. So last two questions. Give some insights for the girl dads, the father figures, role models, partner spouses of women or young girls who are dealing with heavy periods, pelvic pain, fatigue, overwhelm, endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids. How could they better be part of that support system and healing journey?
I guess, just having love and compassion.
Okay.
It's definitely hard to deal with those things for sure. And leading with compassion and love.
I think.
And acceptance, actually, too, like full acceptance for all that it is.
Love, compassion, and full acceptance of everything that young woman, young girl, or, wife, partner is going through. I think that's beautiful. I thought you would say, don't stress her out. Thought you were going with that one for the nervous system vibe.
No, just love, baby, love.
This one was a lot better. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
If I could have a meal with any historical figure,
who would it be and what would you all eat?
Oh my gosh. I want to have him. I don't know if this is historical enough, but I really would love to have a meal with Michelle Obama.
There we go. Okay, go ahead. You're not the first.
I don't know if it's historical enough, but I'd love to just sit down and eat like her home cooking and soul food and like hear like cool stories about like her history and her family history and things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
She's a super dynamic woman.
She is. All right. Well, let everybody know where they can connect with you, find you.
Yeah, you can find me on my website, christineruch.com, and you can book a call with me and you can read. I also have a Substack where I write about all things healing, and I also have recipes, and I talk about the nervous system and all the different ways that we heal.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Christine, for being on the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected from your body, book your healing breakthrough session. The link is in the show notes. This is where we identify what's keeping you in survival mode so you can finally move forward with clarity. Y'all, this episode is sponsored by 4 Vibrations, where your health, your habits, and your healing finally align. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie. I hope you remember to connect with your inner self for greater healing. Thanks for vibing with me, y'all.